So, yeah, I mean, what's been going on in your life these days?
Just the quarantine stuff. Still been staying active and training and stuff, but obviously not to the same extent. Kind of change everything with a lot of the restrictions as far as gyms being closed and stuff like that. But I've still stayed in shape. So as soon as we got this short notice call, I was ready to go.
Right on, man. I see you got a little bit of a shiner going on. What is that just from training? What is that just from a previous fight? What's that from?
Yeah, just training. We can't train with a lot of training partners right now, so I've just kind of stuck with the core group. But yeah, we're doing some sparring, and of course, because I have the fight coming up, we're really stepping it up. So yeah, I
Yeah,
got a little shiner.
yeah. Accidents happen, but yeah, it's what it is. I never really seen anybody with like a. Hopefully, it'll kind of go away before your fight, but never really seen anybody get too much of a shiner before a fight. But at least you're sparring, you're getting ready for your fight. So
Yeah, yeah.
so I'll kind of get started here. So you're getting ready for a short notice fight with Woodson, and what are you doing to prepare for that fight?
So obviously, a lot of my usual road work and strength and conditioning stuff that I usually keep up year round, anyways. But we step it up a little bit just to get ready for the fight. And then, yeah, just the sport specific stuff. Sean Woodson's a little more stand up, but, I think my power is going to be, what decides who wins the stand up. So I think on the ground and wrestling and stuff, I think I've got him pretty easily beat, but I think this would be a good stand up fight and a chance for me to showcase some more of my power.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I guess I could ask you, how do you think you're going to win the fight? Obviously, you're not going to say, "Well, I plan on losing," but how do you see the fight going?
Yeah, I mean it's going to be interesting with the no crowd and stuff like that, but yeah, I think the fight's going to go. We're going to stand, we're going to strike for a little bit, and then yeah, I think later in the first round you're probably going to see me land something big on him and wobble him, and then maybe finish him with one punch.
Nice, nice. That's what I like to hear. I'm glad to see some Canadians representing. Man, it's I just haven't seen many Canadian fighters fight lately, besides Spencer in her match with Nunes. But did you happen to catch that fight?
No, I missed that one.
Yeah, it was. I was expecting Nunes to win. I didn't. No disrespect to her. It's just Nunes is here and Spencer's learning. So I didn't really expect her to beat Nunes, but I mean, it's anybody's game. I kind of saw it happening where maybe Nunes might get tired from just using so much power because Spencer is just so durable, and she took a shit kick. I never seen anybody get hurt like that, and I thought maybe she'll weather the storm, grab a hold of her, and just choke her out or whatever. So obviously that didn't happen. She totally got declassed, and But anyway, kind of going off track here. But yeah, I'm just glad to see Canadians really representing UFC again, and yeah. So I saw with the promo picture with you and Sean. So it says it's catch weight. So whatever happened with that? Because I know you're at featherweight, right?
Yeah, yeah. So I usually fight at featherweight. And yeah, like I said, I was in shape and everything, but getting the fight on 2 weeks' notice, we are kind of going back and forth with the manager. I mean the matchmaker and stuff, and he kind of said we could do 150. So I was like, yeah, short notice, I'll hop on and do 150.
Okay. Now with that, was his opponent out, and were you replacing him, or what? Or did they just throw a last minute fight together?
As far as I know, it's just a last minute fight. Yeah, for me, it was, I just got the notice now. As far as I know, I hadn't heard anything about Sean Woodson being booked before, so I'm assuming it's short notice for him too. But maybe he knew about a fight that fell through, and then this just kind of happened. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's crazy is that I've noticed that they've been doing that a lot. Like, there's a lot of short notice fights. Like, it seems like they're not booking anything a few months ahead. And I don't know if that's just because of the COVID and they don't want to say, okay, we're going to put this fight together. You know, you guys are going to fight in 3 months or 2 months. And then someone gets tested positive, and then where they go from there. They have to replace the person again. And I think that's maybe what they're doing, because I know with your fight that's coming up, that was kind of a quick like that was like a short notice fight, and then I think there's two females. I think it's Jillian Robertson, another Canadian, and she's fighting. I forget her name, but yeah, I think that's another kind of short notice fight. So I don't know. Like, does that bother you having a short notice fight? Do you fight better on short notice? How do you deal with that?
No, it doesn't really bother me too much. I'm always in shape and stuff, so
Mm-hmm.
it's I haven't fought since September, so I've been wanting to fight anyways. So I've been staying in shape. Obviously, having a little more notice helps a lot, but I'd rather fight now and instead of getting a fight in 2 months from now. So I like to do this one, get this fight, and then hopefully turn around quick and come back and get another fight soon.
Okay. Now, when it comes, you said you haven't fought since September. So how does that work? Was that your decision, or was that like you just get a fight when you get a fight?
Yeah, pretty much just get a fight when I get a fight. We send the UFC a lot of messages saying, I'm ready and stuff, and I can fight on different cards and stuff. And I guess just nothing opened up for me.
Okay. Right. So how did you get into the UFC anyway? Was it just you? They just asked you to come. Like, did they want to sign you? How did that all work out?
Yeah, so I got in on a short notice fight December 8th in 2018. Um, some opponents fell out or something for Diego Ferreira at 155, and they called me on, I believe it was 3 days' notice, and asked me if I wanted to step in at UFC Toronto and fight Diego Ferreira, and I jumped on the opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, I know that was kind of a tough. It was a tough fight for sure. Things happen, but I'm glad to see that you got TKO in your last win or in your last fight. So congrats on that, and hopefully we'll see another TKO or KO or submission or just win in general, and be another win for Canada for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, yeah, so where was I going to go here? Um, I guess I already asked that. What do you think is probably your biggest strength?
I think at 145, I think I'm a big guy for 145, so I think with that, I carry a lot of power and a lot of strength and stuff like that. So I think that's historically been kind of my advantage over my opponents. But over the last year or two, we've really added on a lot of conditioning, a lot of cardio. So I'm pretty well rounded now. And then as far as skill sets, I mean my Muay Thai, my kickboxing, my wrestling, my jiu-jitsu, all that's already I think I've proven that that's already at a UFC level. And so it's just been working on all of it and bringing it all up kind of at the same time.
Okay. Um, you were talking about you being big for featherweight. So when it comes to the weight cuts, so you don't have a problem cutting to featherweight? Because I know you're fighting at lightweight. So
Yeah, no, I don't have. I make featherweight. It takes a little bit of work, but I always make it. I've never missed weight. I've fought at lightweight a few times. Again, it's either been short notice or just because I was traveling a lot or something like that. But yeah, generally, I mean, if I have the option, I like to fight at 145 when I can.
okay. Um, so do you notice a huge difference fighting at 145 and 155 when it comes to the opponents?
Not too much. Just that usually when you get up to 155, sometimes the guys are a little bit taller. Usually at 145, I've got a bit of a height advantage and a bit of a reach advantage. Obviously, going into this fight with Sean Woodson, he's I believe 6'2", so he's going to have a bit of a height and reach advantage. But yeah, generally that's the only thing I really noticed going up to 155.
Okay. And when it comes to your weight cuts, have you ever had a problem with weight cutting?
No, no. One of my sponsors that I've worked with for coming on like 10 years now is the Sport Lab, and they do all my nutrition and all that stuff, and my injury rehab. But they also do my weight cut, so they build my weight cut plan, they build my rehydration plan, they build everything around that. So yeah, I've never had any troubles making weight.
And how do you normally do your weight cut? Do you have a certain method that you find the easiest? Because I know people do it differently.
It depends. I mean, we have our like the Sport Lab protocol. So I know, how much weight we need to lose when and where and different stuff like that. Now, depending on where we are, might change whether we're doing it in a tub or a sauna or that kind of stuff will vary a little bit, but it doesn't really make a difference for me whether it's in a hot tub or Epsom salt bath or a sauna.
Yeah, I mean, I gotta ask something. So this topic has been brought up before on other podcasts that I've heard of. So there's the idea that I don't know if you remember. There's been a few fights where people, when they've missed weight, like a good example would probably be like someone like Mackenzie Dern. She had that fight with she's a blondie. I just can't think of her name, but she missed weight by like I think 6 or 7 pounds, and they still let her fight. And I mean, she knocked the girl out senselessly, and I think she submitted her or whatever it was. Um, and then there's been other fights where guys haven't had to cut that extra couple pounds, and it's almost like a not cheating, but it's a bit of an advantage. Do you find that that's not right? That shouldn't happen.
Yeah, definitely. We're all professionals here, fighting in a professional sport. You sign the contract to fight at a certain weight. So, I mean, that's a big part of your job to show up at that weight. Um, the only problem is when people show up and they miss weight, it doesn't just affect them. If they don't fight, or if the commission or the UFC cancel the fight, then not only does it affect the person that missed weight, but it affects the person that showed up to fight and made weight and did all the right work, and they're still losing out on a paycheck because their opponent missed weight. So it's a tricky situation that way. But yeah, definitely. I mean, coming in, 3, 4, even 5 pounds heavy can be a huge advantage, because a lot of the time, those are the hardest pounds to lose when you're doing your weight cut. Kind of the last couple pounds are usually the hardest and the most draining.
Yeah, yeah, and that's why I can understand why certain fighters would get pissed off about that. Um, yeah, I mean, like, I guess they still. I know in the past they'll still ask like fighters like, hey, are you still willing to fight so and so? The guy or he or she, missed a few pounds. Would you still be good to do it at like a catch weight of whatever weight? And normally you do see the fighters accept it because yeah, they don't want to miss out on the paycheck. So it's like yeah,
Yeah,
I'd rather I don't want to fight someone that has more advantage, but I guess part of that could be, if you have the confidence, you can still beat them, and it's all up here, and you can do it, and you don't want to lose on the paycheck. I mean, you got to do what you got to do, right?
yeah, for sure. I mean, a lot of people, a lot of UFC fighters, this is all they do. And if they're just starting out on the first tier contract and stuff, it's not really an option to not fight. You need to take every opportunity you can, because sometimes you won't get a fight for 6 or 8 or 10 months. So you need to fight when you can.
Yeah, yeah. It would be like kind of like any other job. You start off at part time, and then you go to full time, and then you might be a manager. It's kind of like you're going up the scale, same as UFC, right? Like every next contract you sign normally, you're going more up the scale, right?
Generally, I'm still on my first contract, but I imagine it depends a lot on your wins and losses in the UFC,
Mm-hmm.
and then your manager and negotiations. I'm sure play a big role in the contract.
Right. How many fights do you have on your first contract?
4 fights.
4 fights. So this would be your last fight on your contract, or
Yeah.
okay? Have you had anything? Have you heard anything about them wanting to resign you or?
We haven't really talked with the UFC a whole lot, mainly because of the Corona situation and stuff, and I kind of assumed when we did book my next fight that we'd get into some of those talks, but taking it on short notice and stuff, and still with the UFC being so busy putting together Fight Island and trying to make sure all these fight cards go through in Las Vegas, that I just don't think it's top priority of theirs right now.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's understandable. So hopefully we can we can have you, or they can have you resign. We need we need more Canadian fighters. We need more to represent Canada. It seems like we lose all these Canadian fighters, or something happens, or so. Hopefully we can get more and more out of you. But yeah, what was probably the hardest fight you've ever had, whether in MMA or UFC?
Um, it's hard to say. I mean, my first UFC fight um, was difficult against Diego Ferreira. I came out strong and skill wise and everything. I was doing great. But then just because of the short notice and the weight cut and different things, I gasped pretty hard. So that one was kind of difficult conditioning wise, just because of the short notice. And it really sucks because I felt like I was doing really well. I was winning the fight, and then just because of the short notice, I wasn't able to keep it up. Then my second fight in the UFC against Matt Sales, it was kind of, my conditioning, everything was there. My skill set was there. I was doing really well. And then I think it was just kind of my mindset that was off a little bit. Trying to work too hard to get the finish and then kind of rush it. So that one I think was just kind of a mindset thing. So every fight's kind of hard in its own way.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Like, what would be your favorite fight that you had, and then your favorite fight as a spectator in the UFC?
My favorite fight might have been versus Kama Worthy. So I believe he's fighting on the same card as me. He's up at 155 now, but I fought him at 145. Um, well, actually, I guess he missed weight when we fought, so I was 145, and I can't remember what he weighed in at, but we fought here in Toronto. And yeah, I like the way I finished it. I was able to finish it, with a pretty fast knockout. So I think that's one of my favorite fights. Obviously, to get in and out with a nice knockout, not get injured. And I think for the fans, that was really exciting. Then also, my fight with Polo Reyes, I think was exciting for the fans. With the finish and stuff. So yeah.
Okay. And your favorite fight, or your favorite fight as a spectator, like in terms of like watching other people fight.
Yeah, it might. I mean, it depends on what the fans are looking for. I mean, for the knockout, obviously, Kama Worthy, I think was the best knockout.
No,
But
sorry. I meant, like, as you being a fan of other fighters, what would probably been the best fight you've ever watched? Sorry.
oh, okay, one I've watched.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I know I had one, had a favorite, and it's can't think of it right now. But a lot of fights. I mean, even like Max Holloway's fight with Alexander Volkanovski, I thought was interesting. I mean, it
Yeah.
was very back and forth, and I think I noticed some subtleties and stuff. Obviously, Volkanovski landed those leg kicks. I made Max Holloway switch stances, and I think if Max Holloway was able to stay in his orthodox stance, it seemed like he was winning every exchange. But with the way Volkanovski used those leg kicks to kind of change Holloway's stance, then he was able to start winning the exchanges. So I think that was an interesting fight to watch, and obviously it's in my weight class and it's the championship, so it's one I watch very closely.
Yeah. Do you, like, you being in featherweight? Will you tend to watch other fighters, like guys that you might fight down the road? Like, say you might look at some of the top 15 guys. So if you do get a call, then you kind of got a little bit of a taste of, okay, I can kind of see what they're doing, what I can look for, what I'm expecting.
Yeah, definitely. Whenever I'm watching a UFC event, I always pay closer attention to the 145ers. Even on the guys on the bottom of the card because that's kind of where I'm at right now, fighting in the prelims. So I may face them, and then the guys that are up in the main event and stuff, or the main card. That's kind of what I'm aspiring to do, and kind of the guys I'm looking forward to fighting. So yeah, I always make sure I pay attention to those.
Okay. Where do you see yourself at the end of 2020?
I'd like to get another three fights in if I can. Fight this fight. It'd be awesome to get a fight on Fight Island. Maybe get another fight in November or something like that. So I'd love to get three fights and three wins, and start climbing the ranks.
Okay. Do you? I know there's that. I know that there's that huge UFC 252, I think, with that three title fights. Let's say, well, let's say you get a quick knockout, or you're on, like, you're not hurt or anything. Would you be down to try to get on that card for that big payday?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as soon as I can, turn around and fight again, I'd love to. I know generally they do a 14-day medical suspension after every fight, no matter what. And I'm not sure on the date of that UFC, but I know they've got a bunch of events in July on Fight Island. So, I
Yeah,
mean, one of them would be great.
yeah. So it wouldn't really matter, like, as long as you could fight on the island.
Yeah, I mean, as long as I fight as soon as possible after this one, and then keep the ball rolling.
Okay. Um, So if you do win this fight, which I'm confident you will, um, who would you like to fight after this?
I didn't really have anybody in mind. I'd like to get the fight against Matt Sales back. I think that's a fight that I win 9 times out of 10. And it would be nice to get that. He's my only loss at 145, so it'd be nice to get that back too. But I mean, other than that, there's a lot of up and coming 145ers right now in the UFC, and any of them would be great for me to fight.
What about Sugar Sean?
Yeah, I'd love to fight him. I think he's fighting at 135, but yeah, if you wanted to come up to 145, I think it'd be a
Oh, is
great
he
match.
is he fighting at 135?
His
Oh my
last fight
God, I
was
think he is. Oh Jesus, I thought he was fighting at 140. I don't know why I was thinking 145. You know who I'm thinking of is Magnus Shipnapov, that Russian. They kind of remind me of each other a little bit. Both have the same kind of long, lanky body type, and kind of the flashy kind of style. So yeah. So unless he went drop another 10 pounds, you could fight him. But
yeah. I'm not sure that's possible, but maybe.
um, yeah. So are you a fan of any male or female fighters, or both?
Yeah. I mean, I grew up being a fan of George St. Pierre, obviously. But yeah, now I always watch all the champions closely. Especially I followed Max Holloway's career, being the 145-pound champ. So I think it's really interesting to see what's going to happen in the rematch with him and Volkanovski. Um, yeah, and then as far as females, obviously, the bet like Wailing Zay. I can't think it's how
Whaling.
you say it, something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
I think she's really making a big mark, in the 115-pound division, and she's got a lot of interesting techniques. And yeah, I mean, again, even with the champions in the women's division, obviously Nunes, she's making a big name for herself, being a two-division champ. So yeah, it's always interesting to watch, kind of the best in each weight class.
Yeah, I mean, with her, I think with her, I think they need to find someone with the same kind of skill set, and you know, I might get a little hate for this, but I don't think there's really anyone that's out there to really give her like, that adversity, I guess. I know when she fought that boxer, the Randomine. I know that she kind of gave her a problem on doing stand up, but even at that, I mean, once she took her down, there was nothing. Randomine could have done. I don't know. I would really like to see Bullet fight her again. I think she would beat her.
I think, yeah, I think they fought two times before, but I'm pretty sure the decisions were pretty close or something like that. I don't
Yeah,
remember watching them, but yeah, I think that's really the only competition for right now. 145 in the women's division is very small. There's not a lot of 145ers. And then yeah, 135. I'm not sure kind of who's the next contender right now. So it would be interesting, if Valentina could take a bit of time, put on the right amount of muscle to get up to 135 and fight Nunes for that belt.
yeah. I would definitely love to see that again. I mean, I'm a Valentina fan, so when her sister fought, I think it was Shikagan a couple weeks ago. I was kind of hoping she was going to win because it would kind of be cool if she'd be closer to like the title contention. It would be kind of cool to see like the sisters fight each other. But I mean, I don't know if that would happen. I mean, I know they a couple of years ago, or more than a couple of years ago, I think they tried to get the Diaz brothers to fight each other, but they refused. So
Yeah,
it's unfortunate, but because I think a lot of people would have loved to see that, but those guys will never fight each other. Well, I don't even know if they even want to fight. So, uh, but yeah, so I guess you said that GSP, is probably one of your favorite male fighters. Now with GSP kind of being gone, and he's kind of left that Canadian legacy for the UFC. Where do you feel that you're fitting in? Do you kind of want to take? Do you think that you could? Do you think he could kind of pass that torch to you? How are you looking for your career?
yeah, absolutely. I think I have the skill set, the ability to be the next kind of Canadian superstar. But yeah, it's just right now it's just getting the fights and getting in and getting the job done. So yeah, I think I'll get in, do this fight, June 27th, and then start looking at the next fight as soon as I can and try and keep piecing them together and start building a name for myself.
Okay. You know, yeah, like I guess it's hard to kind of fill in someone's shoes for sure. I mean, especially with someone like GSP. I mean, he's probably the goat of the UFC. I know a lot of people say John Jones, but GSP didn't run over a pregnant lady and hasn't gotten into all the other legal troubles that I might be sounding a little bit biased, but like with someone like him, who's I personally don't think he hasn't changed as a person. Um, I mean, you can't deny that he has great skill, but just with his last 3 or 4 fights, he's really come up short with some of the guys that he's fought. And I mean, I think personally he lost against Reyes. I think Reyes beat him 3-2 in the rounds. Even with Thiago Santos, I think he definitely beat him. I know he blew his ACL, which really sucks. Um, but I think he lost his last 2 fights. So with GSP, I think he's still the goat, at least a Canadian goat, and so I can. It definitely would be difficult to kind of fill in his shoes for sure. But I mean, with any sport, you can't let anybody tell you no, and you know, we could see how things go, right?
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So who do you kind of see being the next future UFC stars besides yourself?
Yeah, obviously me. It looks like the Sugar Shane O'Malley's, kind of building an interesting name for himself. Um, and then John Jones is kind of always in and out. I don't feel like he's kind of hit that same kind of superstardom that guys like Conor McGregor have.
Yeah.
So I mean, if he can turn himself around and straighten out some stuff, I think he could be a much bigger star than he is.
Right.
And Israel Adesanya, I think he's he's got the skill set and stuff, he's got the personality and stuff. So I think he's going to continue to grow.
Right. So I was talking with Dennis Bermudez yesterday, and he brought up something interesting. And he was talking about how it kind of appears that in the UFC, it's almost like if you're going to climb to the top quickly if you're winning your fights, but also if you have the personality and you have that, whether you have some wacky hair or you have some different look or you have the certain personality, it seems like the UFC really favors more toward people like that. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean it's kind of part of the sport now. Kind of the showmanship side.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Obviously, being a good fighter and all that will take you pretty far. But yeah, having that it factor, whether it's like Conor McGregor, he talks trash, or you know, yeah, Sugar Shane, he's got his kind of gaming, marijuana kind of gimmick thing. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think in order to cross over to that kind of superstar, you need something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, let's talk about Conor McGregor for a second. So, with Conor, I mean, how do you view the guy? I mean, do you like him? Do you dislike him for all the antics that he's done outside the octagon? What are your views on the guy?
Yeah, I mean, I understand everything he did, and the way he did it, it worked out well for him. I don't think it's something that I would personally do, but yeah, I can't say I dislike him for doing it, and he's also kind of brought the sport to a whole new level. He brought in more viewers, more fans, and stuff, so that's always good. Yeah, just a different route than what I would take.
All right, man. I don't think you're planning on throwing Dolly into the bus anytime soon, are you?
No,
Yeah, I mean, I used to be a huge fan of him. I still like him. I mean, his comeback against Cowboy, that was awesome. I didn't expect that at all. That's not how I saw it coming. Um, but after everything he's kind of done, and he punched a guy, old guy in the bar. And I mean, the thing is, I mean, you don't really know the whole backstory behind everything, but at the same time, yeah, when you're throwing Delhi in the bus, where there was other fighters on that day. I think that was on the UFC 223 card. I think it might have been somewhere similar to that card. I think there was like Chiesa, Nama Nunes. I think a couple other fighters that were on that bus, and I mean, I think Chiesa got all cut up, and I mean, like, yeah, it's cool that you want to get in front of the cameras and build up a fight with Khabib and everything, but there's other ways to do it.
yeah,
And there's other ways, whether it just be like you call them up and say, or like call them out in the hallway and be like, hey, I heard what you're doing to Lobov, and blah, blah, get and make sure the cameras are there, right, to build up a fight. But I mean, when you're doing something stupid like that to hurt other fighters that had no business with whatever's going on, I mean, I have a problem with that. Like that's selfishness.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, like how do you view that when that happened?
Yeah, I think it was a little bit extreme. Definitely could have been handled better. Yeah, I think Connor felt like he had to kind of retaliate for Artem and kind of back up his friends. So I understand where he's coming from. But yeah, I definitely think it could have been handled in a better way. Without affecting other people's fights.
Do you ever have you ever had experience where you've had beef with another fighter, or are you just casual?
Yeah, not for me. I don't think I've fought anybody really where there was a whole lot of bad blood. Um, Anybody that has kind of called me out and that we've gone back and forth with really has always ended up not fighting me. So yeah, everyone I've fought, generally been on good terms with.
Okay. Um, so have you ever like after the fights? Do you ever see the other guy after? Like, do you ever talk with them after the fight, or is there anything that's ever happened? Because I know in a lot of fights, like normally they'll sometimes show like backstage. They'll show the guys like saying, "Hey, great fight," sorry this happened, or
Yeah, yeah. Usually, I'll bump into them at some point after the fight, and and we'll talk and say thanks or whatever, and good fight and stuff like that. Yeah, and it's always it's always good sportsmanship.
Absolutely. Well, listen, I know that I know you're preparing for a fight in 2 weeks, short notice fight. So I don't want to keep you for too long. So I just want to thank you for coming on, and best of luck, and hopefully we'll see you pull off the win on the 27th.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks a lot for having me on.
No problem, man. Take care, man.